It's story time.
My husband, John, and I are what you'd call dog lovers. Our furry companion, Max, a golden retriever with boundless energy, was more than just a pet. He was a cherished member of our family. Our weekends often revolved around activities that included Max, and one sunny Saturday, we decided to take him to the local dog park. The dog park was a sprawling oasis for canines, a place where dogs of all shapes and sizes could run, play, and socialize. Max couldn't contain his excitement as we pulled into the parking lot, his tail wagging furiously as he watched the other dogs frolic. As Max eagerly bounded into the park, his leash slipping from my hand, John and I exchanged amused glances. We knew that our golden retriever would be in his element, chasing tennis balls and making new friends. The dog park was bustling with activity, filled with barking dogs and cheerful owners. We let Max off his leash and watched him dash toward a group of dogs engaged in a spirited game of chase. He joined in with exuberance, and we settled onto a nearby bench, content to watch him enjoy himself. But as we sat there, something caught our attention: a lone dog wandering the outskirts of the park. It was a beautiful German Shepherd, its fur gleaming in the sunlight. It wore a collar, but there was no owner in sight. We exchanged worried glances as we watched the shepherd, concern growing as it circled the park, looking lost and disoriented. It didn't seem to belong to anyone there, and we couldn't bear to see it in distress. "Should we try to find its owner?" John asked, concern etched across his face. I nodded, my heart going out to the forlorn dog. "Let's wait a little longer, see if someone shows up. If not, we can take it to the shelter." Hours passed, but no one came forward to claim the lost shepherd. It seemed increasingly unlikely that it belonged to anyone at the park, and my heart ached for the poor dog. By late afternoon, Max was tired and contentedly sprawled on the grass, his tail no longer wagging with quite the same enthusiasm. We made the difficult decision to take the shepherd to the local animal shelter, where they could hopefully find its owner or a loving home. As we leashed the shepherd and began to walk away from the dog park, something inexplicable happened. The shepherd tugged on its leash with such force that it slipped free, darting back toward the park. John and I exchanged surprised glances, but before we could react, the shepherd had disappeared into the crowd of dogs. We searched frantically, calling its name and scanning the park, but it was as though the dog had vanished into thin air. Frustrated and confused, we finally decided to head home, our hearts heavy with worry for the lost shepherd. The days passed, and life returned to its normal rhythm. Max, though still sprightly, seemed to sense our unease, and often stared out the window as if waiting for something or someone. Then, one evening, as I was scrolling through my social media feed, a post caught my eye. It was a heartfelt tribute to a police canine dog, named Hero, who had recently lost its life in the line of duty. The post recounted how Hero had bravely confronted an armed robber who had taken hostages at a convenience store just across the street from the dog park we had visited that day. Tears welled in my eyes as I read about the heroic actions of Hero, the canine dog, who had sacrificed everything to protect innocent lives. But what caught my attention even more was the accompanying photograph. It was a picture of Hero, the German Shepherd, the very same dog we had seen at the dog park. My heart pounded in my chest as I compared the photograph in the post to the memory of the shepherd we had encountered. It couldn't be a coincidence. The timing, the location, and the striking resemblance, it all seemed too uncanny. I turned to John, who was engrossed in his own reading, and said, "John, look at this. It's the dog we saw at the park, the one that disappeared." John's brow furrowed as he examined the post. "Are you sure? It could just be a coincidence, right?" I couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary had happened that day. "I don't know, John. It just feels too surreal. What if that shepherd we saw was Hero's spirit, making one last visit to the dog park he loved before moving on?" John sighed, clearly torn between skepticism and the inexplicable events we had witnessed. "It's a beautiful thought, but it's hard to believe. We couldn't deny the possibility that we had encountered something beyond our comprehension. Whether it was a mere coincidence or a mysterious connection, one thing was clear: Hero, the canine dog, had left an indelible mark on our hearts. In the days that followed, Max continued to gaze out the window, his eyes filled with a knowing sadness. And in our hearts, we carried the memory of Hero, the unseen hero whose spirit had touched our lives in a way we could never fully explain, but would always cherish. Walking my little Pomeranian, Bella, was the highlight of my day. Her fluffy coat and boundless energy brought me immense joy, and I looked forward to our daily trips to the park. However, one fateful day, our routine walk took a chilling turn that would haunt me for weeks to come. The sun was hanging low in the sky as I strolled through the park, Bella's leash in hand. The usual sights and sounds of the park greeted us, with dogs of all shapes and sizes playing happily and their owners chatting on the benches. As I continued our leisurely walk, I couldn't help but notice a couple who seemed out of place. They were an odd pair, dressed in mismatched clothing that drew attention to them. The man had a scruffy beard and unkempt hair, while the woman had a disheveled appearance that made her look as if she hadn't slept in days. What struck me as even more peculiar was the way they kept stealing glances in my direction. Their eyes followed me as I walked, Bella, their gaze never wavering. It was unnerving, to say the least, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about them. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, I decided it was time to head back to the car. Bella had tired herself out, and I could tell she was ready for a cozy evening at home. Little did I know that our day was about to take a terrifying turn. As I approached the parking lot, I became acutely aware of the strange couple following closely behind me. I quickened my pace, my heart pounding with unease. When I reached my car and opened the door to let Bella in, the woman approached me, a friendly smile on her face that sent shivers down my spine. "Hi there, your dog is so adorable," she said, her voice dripping with sweetness. I forced a polite smile and replied, "Thank you. She's my little sweetheart." Without warning, as I was distracted by the woman's conversation, the man made a sudden move. He reached down, scooped up Bella, and sprinted towards a car parked nearby. My heart froze as I realized the nightmare unfolding before my eyes. The woman followed suit, leaving me in shock and disbelief. I screamed, "Stop! What are you doing?" But it was too late. They had already reached their car and sped away, leaving me standing there, helpless and devastated. I quickly dialed 911, my voice trembling as I explained the harrowing situation to the dispatcher. Police officers arrived at the scene within minutes, and I provided them with every detail I could remember about the couple and their car. They assured me that they would do everything in their power to locate Bella. Weeks passed, and despite relentless efforts by the police, there was no sign of Bella. I couldn't sleep, eat, or find any semblance of normalcy without my beloved dog by my side. The grief and anguish I felt were indescribable, and I clung to the hope that one day, Bella would come home. Then, one crisp autumn morning, a package arrived at my doorstep. It was a small, nondescript box with no return address. My heart raced as I picked it up, a strange sense of foreboding washing over me. I had no idea what to expect as I carefully opened it. To my shock and horror, as I lifted the lid, I was met with the sight of Bella's lifeless body. My hands trembled as I reached into the box, tears streaming down my face. It was a cruel and devastating sight, one that would haunt my nightmares for years to come. I couldn't comprehend how anyone could be capable of such cruelty. My beloved Bella had been taken from me, her life cut short by heartless individuals who had stolen her from my arms. Overwhelmed by grief, I contacted the police, and they launched an investigation into the macabre package that had been left on my doorstep. Forensic experts examined the evidence, but the trail led to a dead end. There were no fingerprints, no clues, no leads that could bring the perpetrators to justice. I couldn't fathom the depths of darkness that could drive someone to commit such a heinous act. The pain of losing Bella was unbearable, and the knowledge that she had suffered in her final moments was a burden I would carry for the rest of my life. In her absence, I found strength in the support of friends and family, who stood by me during the darkest days of my life. The memory of Bella lived on in the stories we shared, the photographs that adorned my walls, and the love that would forever reside in my heart. As the sun began its descent below the horizon, casting long shadows across the serene dog park, I found myself taking in the picturesque scene. The park was bathed in the soft, golden hues of evening, and the playful antics of dogs and their owners added to the tranquil atmosphere. My faithful companion, Luna, a spirited border collie, wagged her tail enthusiastically as we ventured further into the park. It was a routine evening walk, a simple pleasure that both Luna and I cherished. There was something magical about the park during these twilight hours, when the world seemed to slow down and the worries of the day faded away. As Luna reveled in the company of her canine friends, I exchanged pleasant conversations with fellow dog owners. It was a close-knit community, and there was an unspoken camaraderie that bound us together. However, as the sun dipped lower in the sky, I began to feel a sense of unease. The park was gradually emptying out, with most dog owners starting to make their way towards the parking lot. I decided it was time for Luna and me to head back as well. The journey from the dog park to the parking lot involved a short trail that wound through a thicket of bushes. It was a secluded path, dimly lit by the fading twilight, and it always gave me a slight shiver down my spine. Tonight, that unease would prove justified. As Luna and I walked along the narrow trail, I noticed a faint rustling in the bushes to my left. My heart began to race, and I instinctively tightened my grip on Luna's leash. A figure dressed entirely in black emerged from the shadows, causing my heart to plummet with dread. He stepped forward, his face obscured by a mask, and his voice was cold and menacing as he demanded, "Give me your money, your phone, and your car keys." I could feel my hands trembling as I hastily complied with his demands, emptying my bag of its contents and placing them at his feet. My phone, my wallet, everything was now in his possession. But then came the unthinkable. He looked down at Luna, my loyal companion, who had been by my side through thick and thin, and his sinister eyes seemed to gleam with malice. "Give me the dog," he ordered, his voice dripping with malevolence. My heart clenched in my chest, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Luna, my dearest friend, my source of comfort and joy, was not something I could ever give up. "No," I replied firmly, my voice quivering but resolute. In response, he took a step closer, his face contorted with rage. He reached down to grab Luna's leash, but she recoiled, barking fiercely and showing her teeth. Luna, a dog with a heart full of courage and loyalty, was determined to protect me. The situation escalated in an instant. The masked man began to tug violently at Luna's leash, trying to wrench her away from me. Panic coursed through my veins as I realized that he would stop at nothing to take her from me. In a desperate bid to save Luna, I held onto her leash with all my strength, my fingers digging into the fabric. The assailant, frustrated by my resistance, reached for a wooden stick that had been discarded on the trail. With the makeshift weapon in his hand, he began to strike me repeatedly, the blows landing with painful force. Each strike was a searing reminder of the brutality I was enduring, but I refused to let go of Luna. She was my guardian angel, and I would protect her at any cost. My cries for help pierced the air, echoing through the emptying park. Luna's relentless barking had also drawn the attention of other dog owners and passersby, who were now rushing towards us. The assailant, realizing that he was outnumbered and outmatched, abandoned his ruthless assault and fled into the surrounding woods. He disappeared into the darkness, leaving behind a trail of fear and chaos. I was battered and bruised, my body aching from the vicious attack. But I had achieved the impossible. I had held onto Luna, my unwavering protector and savior. The police were summoned, and they launched an immediate search for the attacker. The community rallied around me, offering support and assistance in any way they could. It was a heartwarming display of unity and solidarity in the face of adversity. As days turned into weeks, the search for the assailant proved fruitless. He remained at large, a shadowy figure haunting my nightmares. But what he couldn't take from me was the unwavering bond between Luna and me, the unbreakable connection forged in the crucible of that harrowing evening. Luna, my brave and loyal companion, had stood by my side when I needed her most. Her courage had saved us both, and the love we shared was stronger than any fear or pain.
Until next time, take care.